Okay, Nick here yet again. Now I've given the cat his compulsory morning quantity of loving affection. Hopefully we can carry on with what we're discussing today. Um, Again, we're going through a Wikipedia article. We're discussing various aspects of science and scientific method and related things with reference to the occult. And so far we've discovered that we can still be scientific when we're approaching the occult because of the ways in which certain schools of thought within science do in fact operate. And as I've mentioned before, there's some things it's important to throw out the window, such as aspects of belief. Okay. Now we're moving on to a section on this particular Wikipedia article called Comte's Positivism, and this is just going to explain a little more. According to Augustine Comte, society undergoes three phases in quest for the truth according to the law of three stages, which is a very imaginative name, I must say. These are theological, the metaphysical, and the positive phases. So essentially what Comte's saying is that like the final stage of intellectual evolution is essentially positivism. But he was writing, his dates are 1798 to 1857. But of course, anti-positivism came after his ideas. So essentially, is that actually true? Probably not. We'll probably need to use a blend of both schools of thought when we're investigating and experimenting with something of, let's say, a metaphysical nature. The theological phase of man was based upon a wholehearted belief in all things with reference to God. God, Comte says, has reigned supreme over human existence pre-enlightenment. Humanity's place in society was governed by its association with the divine presences and with the church. The theological phase deals with humankind's accepting the doctrines of the church or place of worship rather than relying upon its rational powers to explore basic questions about existence. So as I'm sure you're aware, there are certain modern movements which are actually going against the changes which have happened since the Enlightenment, which I personally think is a bad thing. And we still need rationality to try and understand the world, but rationality, when applied to investigation, as you've already seen, is a little broader than just what we're seeing here when we're looking at positivism. Comte describes the metaphysical phase of humanity as the time since the Enlightenment, a time steeped in logical rationalism to the time right after the French Revolution. This second phase states that the universal rights of humanity are most important. The central idea is that humanity is invested with certain rights that must be respected. In this phase, democracies and dictators rose and fell in attempts to maintain the innate rights of humanity. So maybe we could say that America, which works upon its constitution, is one of these metaphysical, rationalist, enlightenment type social organizations. I mean, that's just a theory. I haven't studied the Bill of Rights or the Constitution of the United States in great enough detail. That was just an assumption, I suppose. The final stage in the trilogy of Comte's universal law is a scientific or positivistic age. The central idea of this phase is that the individual rights are more important than any rule of any one person. Comte stated the idea of humanity to be able to govern itself is what makes this stage innately different from the rest. There is no higher power governing the masses and the intrigue of any one person than the idea that one can achieve anything based upon one's individual free will and authority. The third principle is most important in the positive stage. So, Comte, I would say, is liking changes in science towards positivism, towards changes that create liberal democracy or liberal capitalistic democracy the way that we have it in certain parts of the world these days. Some might actually argue that the process is being reversed, but that's difficult to say. The irony in this series of phases is that Comte's attempt to prove that human development has to go through these three stages. It seems that the positivist stage is far from becoming a realization. This is due to two truths. The positivist phase requires having complete understanding of the universe and the world around us, which of course we don't, and requires that society would never know if it is in this positivist phase, which one could actually argue we've tried to reach that during the late 1800s and up to the middle towards the end of the 1900s, and I would say we're going backwards. Giddens argues, that will be Anthony Giddens, argues that since humanity isn't constantly using science to discover and research new things, humanity never progresses beyond the second metaphysical phase. Thus, some believe Comte's positivism to be circular. So Comte was essentially jumping to conclusions. We could even say he was trying to promote his own ideas. Comte believed that the appreciation of the past and the ability to build on it towards the future was key in transitioning from the theological and metaphysical phases. The idea of progress was central to Comte's new science, sociology. Sociology would lead to the historical consideration of every science, because the history of one science included pure political history would make no sense unless it were attached to the study of the general progress of all of humanity. As Comte would say, from science comes prediction, from prediction comes action. It is a philosophy of human intellectual development that culminated in science. So before we move on to the next video, what we could be seeing here is one of the reasons why there is a bias or a prejudice within the scientific community against metaphysical subjects, in that Comte was trying to promote a model of the world, trying to promote a set of ideas, and we can't even say whether society has reached the level of development that he was actually talking about. So I would say that his arguments in some areas, not all of them, falls down flat a bit. Okay, and of course human intellectual development is of a different order than what he was trying to promote. Back with you in a second.